welcome to I'm Not a Fan Unless I Have a Podcast. I'm John Hanford, and I'm sticking with the bandana. This is my new identity. Yay, completed a Saturn return, and, this is what we're left with. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. It just occurred to me while I was out for a walk with the dog today that I am really thankful for all of you who have subscribed to my YouTube channel. And for everybody who's been following on Instagram, GizFanPod, and sending me emails at what is it? I think it's gizfanpod@gmail.com. Yeah, no, that is the email address. gizfanpod@gmail.com. So thank you for everybody. Thank you to everyone who's reached out and subscribed and listening to the podcast regularly. I truly appreciate it. So I wanted to say on that note, I am looking to record more episodes. So if you would like to come on the podcast, please send me a DM on Instagram at GizFanPod or via email, gizfanpod@gmail.com. I would love to, have more conversations and, keep producing more, more episodes. I think I've got another 5 in the tank, but I would like to get more and keep this thing going. It seems like we're going to be going back into lockdown pretty quick here, so we're going to keep this podcast going for as long as people have a lot of time in their hands, myself included. I'm normally a pretty busy guy, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's see. Was there any other housekeeping I wanted to get out of the way? Nope, I think we got it all. Today's guest is, I did want to say something. This episode was recorded May 24th. So that was before before all the protests started. And I wanted to address that because there is a point, somewhere in the middle of this episode where we're talking about it. I'm saying, hey, I got this podcast, and to distract from everything else that's going on. That was solely talking about being in quarantine and the shitty response from the government to the pandemic. That was not at all talking about Black Lives Matter, because as I've stated on several podcasts before this one, I'm very much in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. And I have been out, in the street protesting. So, things have changed since May 24th, but nonetheless, this was a really fun conversation that I had with Zev, who is our second Canadian guest. And 2 for 2, the Canadians, they've both given us bassists. As you can probably tell from the title of this episode, we spent a substantial amount of time talking about bass guitar, and he plays bass in a couple different bands. So I think you guys are going to like this a lot. So without further ado, here's Zev. So Zev, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is pretty cool for me. So
to
just dive into it.
Yeah. So you're based in Canada?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto. Thankfully, it's a stop on Gizzard's tour pretty much every time they come to North America. So it's a prime place to be for a Gizhead.
Yeah. I mean, really, just about anybody. I love Toronto. I've got a lot of got family there, actually.
Nice.
It's a great music scene too, and it's a shame that like downtown has turned into just condos, but it's still a cool city.
I'm thankful enough to be living in a house downtown in a pretty great neighborhood near a lot of venues and stuff. So I'm set up pretty nicely down here, thankfully.
Nice. Yeah. I just love going there. It's cool because like you got the trolleys and you got the vomit comet that goes out. I'm not sure if that's a term that you use, but my cousin uses it.
I like it now. I'll probably start using it from now on.
Yeah. It's like that late night basically any trolley that runs late at night and goes out, out toward like Etobicoke. I've got family out in that suburb, and yeah, that's what they refer to it as, and I love it.
I mean, it tends to be a place of puke, so it gets kind of dirty after a certain time.
Yeah, does Hantayumi happen to own a funeral home out there? Or
oh God, probably. If he doesn't, he should.
Yeah, I mean, shit, I kind of want to start one now. Just, I mean, it seems like that's a good industry to get into at the moment, and also it's, I mean, like it would just be a great Giz themed business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'd invest in it, but all the power to you, man.
You incorporate some AI technology somehow, and I don't know, like that's how you start a startup. You just say it's got AI, and then you get some venture capitalists to throw you some funds and get the thing off the ground. But anyway, yeah. So like you mentioned, Toronto's a place where Giz stops pretty much every time. How many times have you been able to see them?
I've seen them 3 times in Toronto. Last year I was supposed to see them in Toronto, but it happened to be one of my good friend's wedding, so I couldn't go. But I ended up hopping on a train the next morning and going to Montreal to see them the next night.
That's cool.
Great. And then I saw them again at Desert Days in 2018 when they headlined. So that was a pretty
sick. Yeah, I wish I'd been able to go to Desert Days. I didn't know about that festival until it was like maybe 2 weeks before it actually happened. And I was living in New York at the time, so it would have been a lot of stuff coming together. But
yeah, I mean, I flew all the way from Toronto and managed to make it work. I was planning on going alone, and I ended up being able to find somebody to go with, and met a lot of incredible people. But it was actually in Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
When I went, it was in
Lake Paris.
Lake Paris, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so it started in Joshua Tree, and then and I guess it just got too big for the local infrastructure to handle. And
yeah, I'm glad they moved it because it was a beautiful venue, and having access to like a lake and not being in the middle of the desert was and like still being in the middle of the desert at the same time though, so still having that kind of vibe, but you get kind of the best of both worlds. It's a beautiful venue.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I just really I wanted to go last year. I tried to see if I could volunteer, because that's something you can do. Like if you're a local, you can volunteer to like set up the stage or something, and then they'll just like give you a pass. But they unfortunately they were already full. They were full of volunteers. But but yeah, so I can't help but notice the baseball jersey you got on. What does that say?
Bugs, and I got I don't know if you can see it. So Bugs.
Oh yeah.
Toronto Blue Jays hat on. Yeah, I'm a bit of a baseball fan, a little bit. I'm a Jays fan through and through, and just saw this guy at a store somewhere, and I decided to pick it up. I was trying really hard, actually. I was deciding, should I wear a King Gizzard shirt on this podcast, or is that just too much? Or is like I could wear like a King Gizzard adjacent shirt, like some kind of other flightless band or something like that, because I have a couple of those. I was like, you know what, we'll talk about it. They'll know how much I know.
Yeah, well, I'll join you in solidarity. Give me a second. There it is. My old school Jays hat. So I'm gonna. This also, like, I bought this hat when my hair wasn't like, basically when I had like a real corporate haircut. So it doesn't really fit anymore, but
yeah, you can still rock it.
We're gonna rock it. I'm gonna wear a hat. It'll keep the hair out of my eyes too, and so.
And that's why I'm wearing my hat.
Yeah, there you go. It is.
But with everything going on right now, I don't know the next time when I'm gonna be able to get a haircut. So
I've
grow out a little bit.
Yeah, I think I like having long hair. It's it suits me. It suits my personality as just sort of like a hippie desert comedian musician. So it works. But yeah, this is quite convenient though. I like not like touching my face and getting my hair all caught up and everything. So anyway, back to Giz. So with what's your origin story with getting into them?
Oh, see, I was trying to think of this before I came on, and I'm pretty sure I've narrowed it down to uh, watching the KEXP session on YouTube in early 2016. So I think I was I was like a big Tame Impala Pond fan, and I think Pond had a KEXP session on there, so I was watching it, and then King Gizzard showed up in the recommendation section, and I was like, "What the fuck? What is this? What is his name?" I'm,
Yeah,
so, I'm so curious, and there was the video with the Mind Fuzz medley and the river,
yeah,
and it blew me away. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So I ended up going out buying I'm in Your Mind Fuzz at my local record shop. Was super into it. I was playing it constantly. And then I started slowly delving into their older stuff and getting into, oh, it's getting a little dark.
yeah, a little bit.
I'll turn off my background. Um,
Oh my
so
god, now you're just melting right into Stu's forehead. Yeah, maybe close the blinds.
yeah,
That's some intense light.
it is very intense. It kind of runs right in around this time of day. How's
Yeah.
that?
Still a little there we
Oh,
go. Perfect.
okay, cool. Let's see if I get my background back on.
Yeah.
There
There
we
it
go.
is. Hey, the lighting's way better. Yeah, you're really fading.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so so I started going into their older stuff, 12 Bar Brews, Float Along, Fill Your Lungs, on like all that stuff. And the summer before in 2015, I was actually a music journalist, so I was doing like band interviews and concert reviews and stuff like that.
Oh,
And
sick.
I saw that Giz was coming to Toronto in May 2016, which was right around the time Nonagon came out. And I just decided to email the press email that they had on their website in hopes that I could get an interview. And it so happened to be that the person who was running press for them at the time was somebody that I had met the summer before doing all the press stuff. So she hooked me up with an interview with Stu during the Nonagon tour. And he was just like the nicest guy. He was incredibly sweet. And we chatted for like 20 minutes before the show. And it was at a really small venue. It was kind of before they had like fully blown up.
Yeah.
Because Nonagon, I think we can agree, was the big breakthrough record, at least internationally.
Yeah.
So yeah, just having the time one-on-one with him was just like incredible, and it kind of made me just fall in love with the band even more, and just getting to talk to him about his influences and just kind of history of the band and having some fun. I think we played a Fuck, Marry, Kill together. I was one of the like first few times where I was interviewing, and I was still like super nervous. I don't know if you've met them before, but or have talked to anybody that you're like a huge fan of, but like you kind of like choke up and you kind of just like forget what to say, and I'm a very awkward person when it comes to those kinds of interactions, so I did my best.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically how I got started with them.
I mean, that's really fucking cool. I mean, so like, just let me get this timeline right. So you saw them, you saw their KEXP set, then you heard they're coming to Toronto. They're going to be playing during the Nonagon tour, and just based on what you saw in KEXP and just what you listened to, that's what made you decide like I should just interview them because like they sound cool. Like,
Yeah,
so it wasn't until after that interview that like you really got a deeper meaning and like really became a super fan basically, or
yeah. So I mean, it was really cool because as doing press, uh, they sent me a version of the Nonagon album before it was released. So I got an early listen of the album. And I think it was after I listened to that album where I realized, like, holy shit, this is the best album I've ever heard. It's so cool. It repeats. What? That's so
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, I mean, I was listening to it on repeat for weeks leading up to the interview. And then the interview went really well, and then the show just like floored me. Like it melted my face. It was a really small venue, and I was right up at the front, and I was getting pushed up against the great thing.
Yeah.
Thought I was going to get cut in half. Like it was insane. But they all managed to fit on this tiny stage. Like there's 7 guys, and they're all stuck together on this tiny stage, and they just ripped it. It was incredible, and it was
Yeah.
probably the best set that I saw. Um,
Which venue did they play?
they played the Velvet Underground.
Okay.
Yeah, on Queen Street, and Sugar Candy Mountain opened for them.
Oh, I love them. I saw them play out here last summer.
They were great. They were really cool.
Yeah, yeah. They're also like really nice people. I talked with a couple of them.
Yeah, you have. Have you?
But yeah, like you were saying, with just regard to like meeting the guys in the band. Like unfortunately I've never met Stu. I've only met Cook and Lucas, and like they're super fucking awesome. Like Cook's one of my favorites, and like they're awesome guys and everything. But like I was on mushrooms, and and that just kind of made it easy. Because like they hadn't quite kicked in yet, but like just a little bit to where I had like all the comfort in the world, approaching them to ask for a picture. And but like actually with my former favorite band, the Meat Puppets, they so like I'm a huge fan of them, and I have been for like the last 10 years. But I actually got to go to one of their shows in 2013. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they started out in the like early 1980s. They played with Nirvana on their MTV Unplugged show, since they wanted to cover some of their songs. And I saw them play in 2013, and just met up like before the show started. I became I befriended sort of the bassist from the opening band. He was like, "Oh yeah, I can just take you backstage after the show and you can meet all the guys." I was like, "Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that." And once I got back there, I was like, "All right, I could either geek out and just talk to them about their music, or I could like just try and make it a hang so that I'm memorable to them." And so I did that and just started talking. I just started like just started talking about baseball, and I made a Holocaust joke and they loved it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was the funniest thing. And like from that point forward, like we just became friends. And yeah, so it's weird. Like if you just really trust your guns on it, and I mean, maybe it was just pure luck that this worked out for me, but I don't know. I feel like if you go into it just with an idea of like, who cares? We're just here to share a moment. Then that's like enough to sort of like break down that barrier. But,
I talked to Stu a couple times after that interview that I did initially, and I've met Eric and Lucas as well. The last time I saw Stu, so in the first interview that I did, I said we played Fuck, Marry, Kill.
yeah.
I forget who the 3 people were, but he said that for one of them he would kill Mac DeMarco. And when I saw him again, I was like, "Hey, remember when you said you would kill Mac DeMarco?" And he's like, "I don't want to kill anybody." I was like, "Okay." I guess you don't remember, and now I'm super embarrassed.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes after that, Eric's outside, and I was like, "Eric, that was such a great show." He's like, "Oh, thanks, mate." And I was like, "You know, you got to stop making so many albums because you're making me go broke." And he said, "That's not good." And I was like, "Well, shit. Okay, I'm not landing anything today." But yeah, so those 2 experiences were not ideal. But I did meet Lucas at a bar right next to the Danforth Music Hall.
Nice.
Right before the show. He was just having a beer, and I was by myself, and I just so happened to be seated next to him, and we started chatting. And I basically told him that he was the reason why I started playing bass, essentially, why I bought a Mustang bass. And we were just talking about short scale basses and talking about vintage basses, and it was just like a really cool chat, like maybe like 5 minutes, but it was cool to just see like how just down to earth and chill they all are.
Yeah, for sure. Pardon my ignorance. I've been playing guitar for like what 22 years now. Like what's a short scale bass?
A short scale bass is basically a bass guitar that's 4 inches shorter on the neck.
Okay, so it has like fewer frets or
It has fewer frets, but if you look at a live video of them playing, and you'll see that Lucas's bass looks a little small
yeah.
compared to like a regular bass. So yeah, that's essentially what a short scale is.
Is that just what the Mustang bass is? It's just a short scale
Yeah.
bass, all of them, or
So the Fender Mustang bass is like a brand. It's a model of a short scale bass. There are other models of short scale basses. Fender has a Music Master. Gibson has one as well. I'm forgetting what it's called, but there's a few of them. I'm not sure if the Hofner bass is short scale. I feel like it might be, but I'm not 100% sure. Like the Paul McCartney bass.
yeah. I mean it would seem that it's short scale just because the body is so small,
Yeah,
and all the Beatles were just kind of like little, but yeah, it's God, it's weird. Like I've just gone my whole life without knowing any of that, so that's enlightening. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, because yeah, I now that you mention it, it does make sense. Like Lucas he's tall, but he's not like, but like yeah, his bass is, I guess it does look a little smaller than like a P bass,
yeah,
or a
yeah.
jazz bass.
It's definitely smaller, and it just gives off this really vintage kind of 60s sound. I think he actually, I don't know if he still plays like a 60s Mustang, but I think he, in that KEXP video that I mentioned, I think he's playing a 60s or 70s Mustang bass. And I was just like, this sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about flat wound strings and stuff like that, and was like, I would never have thought to put flat wounds on a bass guitar. That sounds.
Oh shit. So what's a flat wound string?
So, have you ever played a bass before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the strings are very. The basic string on a bass that you would buy standard is a nickel wound or round wound bass
Right.
strings. So I don't know if I can show you if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but it's really rough.
Okay.
But when you like go up and down your neck, but with the flat wounds, it's completely smooth.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I think I know what you're talking about, actually. Yeah. So it's like not nylon strings, but basically it's just one like smooth type thing.
Yeah,
So like you're not going to get those same grooves like a nickel wound, um,
it's
like
not as
standard.
grungy. It's like very well. It kind of sounds like it's the same. I believe it's the same strings that you would see on a double bass, like an upright.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that
It's like
makes
the same.
sense.
So I believe if my bass history is correct, all the original bass guitars were flat wound strings. So like Leo Fender's bass guitars originally were all flat wounds.
Huh.
If my memory is correct.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just fascinating. Like I've never even, in terms of like the furthest extent that I've gone to with discussing strings ever has just been what do I like playing, 10s or 11s, and what brand, Diodario or Elixirs, and I like Elixirs because they last the longest, but it's cost effective, but yeah, so with just in your Giz fandom, since I don't want to keep this thing too technical, which like what records have you been listening to like recently, or just like what do you usually go to if you're just kind of like not sure what you want to listen to?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I have quarters on my turntable right now.
That's a good one to keep there.
I That's the last one I listened to. I am a bit of a collector, not like some of those insane people that are on the group,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like I think I'm like an
You mean like
intermediate.
the rest of the guests on this podcast?
I think I would say I'm an intermediate collector. I think I have each of their records. Some I have additional copies of, just different variants and stuff. Um, but honestly, it really depends on the mood. Lately, I've been into the kind of softer stuff, so quarters and paper mache. But I was ripping Rat's Nest for like 3 months straight. When that album released, I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big Metallica fan, and when the Planet B video first came out, I was like, "Is this a joke? Like, is this for real?" And I listened to it. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, they actually like did a good job with thrash metal. Not that I didn't think it could happen, but
Yeah,
still impressed.
I mean, it's fascinating because before that, like the heaviest you heard him got was Murder of the Universe, which was sick, and you're just like, okay, yeah, these guys, they have metal capabilities. Um, I didn't really expect to see them go like really further down that road, or branch off into something even like faster and thrashier. Um, but but it was cool to like get a little bit of a teaser just from Gumboot Soup in hearing like Greenhouse Heat Death and fuck Great
Great
Chain
change.
of Being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's just like, all right, we can fucking bang out to this. um
And that did you see the Rat's Nest tour?
yeah, I saw them 3 times last summer.
Oh shit.
um it was, yeah, I got pretty lucky, but
Well, I mean, looking at the set list, it looks like that they changed it up almost every night.
yeah, I mean, I think they do that in general, but I think they've been getting on this last tour. They got even better about changing up the set list, every night. Because like when I first saw them in New York in 2018, I went to 2 of the 3 shows they played that weekend at Brooklyn Steel, and like the set lists were different. They had different opening and closing songs, but we still got Rattlesnake every night. um and and like they played Crumbling Castle and Fourth Color every show. And um but yeah, but when I saw them last year on the Rat's Nest tour, they played, I mean, like they just changed it up a bunch. Like either you were getting Crumbling Castle and Fourth Color, or you were getting Inner Cell, Loyalty to Horology, and it was just like either one's good with me. And
Yeah, I think I got the Intercell horology loyalty bit, and it was great. Now, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but when I went to Montreal for that show, I was when Galia released the image of what the poster was for that show.
oh yeah.
I was like, "Fuck, I have to get that poster." But if I get that poster, I'm not going to be able to mosh. Otherwise, I'm going to ruin that poster.
Yep.
And the collector in me got the best of me over my moshing side of me, and I stood in the back, not in the total back, but I stood like away from the madness just so I could keep my precious $50 poster safe.
Yeah.
But it was fucking worth it. I got a frame now, and I was like, I'll see them again. It'll be
Yeah.
fun.
I mean, sure, everything's uncertain now with the pandemic and all, but like I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to get concerts back at some point. Um,
Yeah.
and it might not be this year, and that's fine, but like they are coming back. And yeah, so like I think you made the right decision. And granted, like you look at me and like I'm you know, like barely 110 pounds. So it's like, I don't really want to mosh. It is against my own interest to do that. So like I'd gladly hang back and just watch and listen. Especially if I had a poster, that'd be sick.
Yeah, I was with my girlfriend and another friend of mine, and my girlfriend is very small, but she likes to fucking go crazy in a mosh pit. She has a lot of fun, but I don't know how she does it. But she and my friend went in, and I just stood there in the back, like, hope you're having fun.
Yeah, universal healthcare helps with one, for one thing, but at least with the risk assessment. Um, but I mean, it is fun, and like I'd be lying if I said I haven't moshed. I have at my first Giz show, and pretty much it was just me like trying to get people off my back because I was against the rail in the front. Um, and like I was just trying to really get into the music. Um, just like a whole bunch of like kids just like tearing at my shoulders. It was it was pretty brutal. But God, it's so weird because like now I'm just thinking about those times of being in a sea of people, and the last 75 days or so it's just been none of that, nothing even close. So it's like otherworldly now that that's a distant memory. you know
Absolutely.
um
It's very weird. I had tickets to see them in April, and obviously it got rescheduled. It got rescheduled to October. I don't see it happening.
yeah
Um, I think I requested a refund, and I'll just be like, once everything's dealt with, and I can actually go and not have to worry about it being rescheduled again, I'll just buy the tickets again. I think they're being overly optimistic with coming back, planning to come back in October, November.
yeah but that's just Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I don't like, I think basically everybody knows that the October rescheduled dates are best case scenario, but probably not gonna happen. But
They needed a placeholder because they don't want
yeah,
to give people their money back.
yeah, exactly. So and personally, I'm like with my situation, I'm okay with that because like I would be driving to these shows anyway. Like I had tickets to Red Rocks and the Marathon show in Berkeley. Um, so yeah, like once those went on sale, I bought the tickets because I'm going to those no matter what. Um, and like yeah, I just knew it would be too much of a hassle to forfeit the tickets and then have to remember to wake up and buy them again before they're sold out. So I got my money back for my flight to Denver, but beyond that, like I'll see them when I see them.
I had the choice of either buying tickets to one of the marathon shows or go to Europe. And
Ooh.
and I think we decided that it would be best if we did the Europe trip instead. And I'm like, what? It'll be cool. I've always wanted to go to Red Rocks. It's just such a legendary place, and seeing Gizzard doing a 3-hour set would have just been phenomenal. But we decided instead to do 3 weeks in Europe. But obviously, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like this year is just a giant buzzkill overall. Everybody's plans are getting fucked left, right, and center.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like I mentioned on a previous podcast that like if it hadn't been for the pandemic and everything getting fucked, this podcast would have never happened. And like I'm really enjoying like I love doing this. So on a selfish note, 2020 has been a pretty excellent year. As as far as just like assessing my ability to make the best of a shitty situation, like I'm loving this. But it's purely through that lens that I'm looking. I'm just trying to ignore everything else.
Honestly, do whatever you got to do. Like, it's tough sometimes to find the positives in times like these. So all the power to you, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I'm not just going out there and just like dancing in the street or like really flaunting it. Pretty much, it's just like this podcast is pretty much my outlet for expressing all my joy, which I don't know. I hope people don't take it like aren't pissed off or offended. But I don't know, if you are, you gotta, I don't know, find your niche, do a podcast of your own. It's
Yeah. Honestly,
really rewarding.
I was thinking about starting a podcast, and I'm
I'd
just
say do it.
that you did it.
Yeah.
It's been something that's been on my mind, but I also haven't dedicated the time to doing it. So I'm also a musician,
Mm-hmm.
and my band and I have managed to record stuff together in quarantine, just sending over stems and whatever, and mixing it once everybody send their stuff in. So that's been really cool. But honestly, just having access to internet is just making everything so easy. Like I can't imagine, fucking doing this without any internet. But
Oh
at
my
the
God.
same time, I got all my Giz records. I'm good if, the internet goes out.
Yeah. I mean, God, that would be terrible. I mean, because there are some pluses to not having any sort of, just not having any sort of connectivity to the rest of the world when everything's pretty much just stagnant anyway. Um, but at the same time, like, it's good to stay abreast of the situation. Like I wouldn't, I wouldn't go blow up my router or something just to like deprive myself of internet. Um, I mean, like one of my favorite comedians actually went. He he double quarantined. He put himself in an internet blackout for 30 days. Like from like April 7th to May 7th. And and like a lot of shit happened then. So like when they came back, like when his blackout was lifted, they, like he has a podcast. And by the way, this is Doug Stanhope, one of my he's like my favorite comic.
Cool.
Excellent new special. It's on Vimeo. $10, just like Shrunky Shrapnel. And but like when he came out of quarantine, they just had a guessing game with them, just like, hey, what would you estimate the death toll is at now? And at the time he went into the media blackout, it was like 2,000 or something, and he was just like, like let's say 6,800 or something like that, and it was like, nah, it's like 75,000, and in the U.S. and God, it's just wild. But it was just hilarious to see, just like how much different his reality was from mine or anybody else around me that's on Facebook or social media or whatever.
For sure.
Um,
I mean, who was it? Oh, Jared Leto. Did you hear about that thing where he was like,
no.
I was doing meditation in the desert for 3 weeks. What the hell's going on in the world? Like he came back like, I think maybe like 2 weeks after like the shit really hit the fan in the States.
Oh, so this was like back in like February, March?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like fixing up my chakras in the desert. Everything's fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like walk into that. It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, actually, like, did you hear about the guy who sailed from Victoria, BC, down, like he sailed all the way from Victoria, BC, starting in like November or December, to New Zealand. And at first they weren't going to let him dock because everything was full lockdown there. But when he explained, like, look, I don't know what's going on at all. I have been at sea. I've been in solitary for 6 months or whatever. Like anything, there's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. He can come in. And so like he cleaned up or whatever, and then got some food and sailed away. back back to Canada. Um,
That's
but it's just
cool.
like, yeah, he came out of out of a sailing trip into just a totally altered reality.
That's nuts. That's crazy. I can't imagine. It must be such a surreal experience just finding something like that out.
I mean, just sailing around the world alone anyway is just insane to me. Like that's nuts. That is too dangerous. Uh,
Yeah.
um, but but yeah. So you mentioned you played in a band. So are you guys psych rock or something, or are you what do you guys do?
So that since I've ever since really got into psych rock, maybe like I don't know, must be like 10 years now. I always wanted to be in a psych rock band, but it's just not how it panned out. So I would say that there's definitely psych influences,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I would say my band is very genre bending, kind of like Giz in itself, except just in its own kind of different way. We're just kind of hard to put in a box. But we have our first EP coming out in a couple weeks
Oh,
on
nice.
and all that stuff. We have a couple singles out. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I wouldn't call it psych, but it's definitely freaky and weird.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned that EP that's coming out. What's your band called, and what's the EP called? Where can we find it?
So it's a self-titled EP. Our band is called Glutenhead. Uh,
I
one word.
love it.
And yeah, you could find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, all that stuff.
Oh
So
yeah. So yeah, so that EP will probably come out before this episode comes out.
sure,
Um, but yeah, so it'll be there. Glutenhead. Fuck yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So it's a quick little 20-minute EP. It's kind of all over the place, but I think it's a fun, cohesive uh, roller coaster 20-minute experience. So yeah, check it out
awesome.
if you want.
Yeah. So yeah, 20 minutes. So what, you got like 5 songs on there, 4 songs?
Yeah, we got 5 songs.
Nice. So
Yeah.
when you're arranging an EP, even it's like not a full length album, but it's you know I would imagine you use the same kind of um, I don't know, like I guess you'd have the same approach when you're ordering the tracks, right? Like what kind of experience would you say it takes the listener through?
I think, well, I have my own opinion on it. I think I want to leave it to everybody to kind of figure it out on their own. But um, the influences are everywhere. There's like freak folk, uh, 70s rock, um, kind of Lou Reed stuff. But then there's also like 90s emo thrown in there as well. So it's got low points in terms of like emotionally, stuff that'll make you sad, stuff that'll make you cry, stuff that'll make you scream, stuff that'll
Hmm.
make you happy. It's just like I think we managed to jam a lot of emotions and feelings into 20 minutes. So
That's
I'm
fucking
I'm
awesome.
happy with it. I'm excited to for people to listen to it. Um, but I can't say it's Giz inspired, unfortunately.
That's okay. Like, because there are one thing that I love about King Gizzard is just how many bands I get introduced to through them that sound nothing like them, and like it doesn't matter. Like Amyl and the Sniffers. I don't know if you caught them on the Giz tour a couple years ago, but um, they sound nothing like Giz. It's totally a different genre, but they made it work because the commonality was just like, we're here to have a great fucking time, and you better be too. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, it just works.
I've seen them 3 times. Once when they opened for Giz, once in LA at the Echo.
Hmm.
Uh, Nuts and Tropical Fuckstorm opened for them.
Oh fuck.
And another time at the Velvet Underground in Toronto. So yeah, I mean, I've been exposed to so many different bands because of Giz. Like, the whole, first of all, the whole Flightless label is just incredible. I'm a huge Orb fan. Zach Olson, the Traffic Island solo project, I'm a huge fan of. Tropical Flux Storm, like I said. Cookie solo project is great. Stonefield, I've seen a couple times. But you know, when I interviewed Stu, he mentioned that he was listening to a lot of Hawkwind when he was when he was writing Nonagon, and I was like, I've never heard of Hawkwind. And I look him up, I was like, oh, it's Lemmy's first band. What the fuck? They created space rock? What the hell? So, like,
whoa, shit! Your video froze for
into
a
Turkish.
second. Okay, yeah. So your video froze. So can you just repeat what you just said after Stu was listening to Hawkwind?
Oh yeah. So I got into Hawkwind, and it was just fucking awesome. I kind of went down that rabbit hole. And on top of that, the Flying Microtonal Banana album got me really into Turkish music.
Oh yeah.
So I went down a really deep rabbit hole with Turkish music, and I ended up just like seeking out Turkish records at my local record store. Have you heard of Altan Gün?
Yeah.
So that they played Gizfest at least once or twice.
Yeah.
And I got to see them last summer, and they're like now one of my favorite bands, like alongside Giz. I just think they're incredible, and I think that's something that I don't know if it gets talked about a lot on like the Facebook page or whatever, but I think everybody can agree that, you know, Giz has exposed the fan base to such a multitude of different kinds of music. And I would say the majority of the music that I listen to has somehow been linked from King Gizzard, at least like the music I listen to right now.
Yeah, I mean, like they've done wonders to expand my own, music vocabulary and just like they've made me just listening to Giz and everything that's come from that. It's just made me a more. It makes it seem like I'm more cultured in my musical taste. Like after I listened to Sketches enough, like I was like, oh, I can listen to jazz anytime. I don't care. I fucking love jazz. And then like my most recent mushroom trip, I had this epiphany, like everything is jazz. Like the world operates on on a polyrhythm. Like everybody's going at a different speed, but we're all playing the same thing. And it was just such a crazy thing. And then like I realized that like King Gizzard was the actual meaning of life, and that the OCs were actually Satan. Anyway, it was fucking wild, and I don't know if all of it is true, but
yeah, I mean, OCs. I think I didn't find out about OCs until after I found about King Gizzard.
Yeah, I mean, same. King Giz was really my first real foray into psych rock. Before them, it was like I was only familiar with Rocky Erickson and the Black Angels as the most recent band to do psych rock. Like I didn't realize that psych rock was even still going on. And yeah, so here we are, and now I'm enlightened. So
I was big on the whole Perth psych scene with like all the Tame Impala offshoot bands. So I was really only listening to those bands in terms of modern psych rock. Like if you want to throw MGMT in there.
Yeah, I was literally just thinking of them, and because like I had heard MGMT back when I was in college like 10 years ago, and like I would never have thought of them as psych. Like I just figured, okay, they're whatever the equivalent is of like alt pop or something. And I guess when I first heard it, I forget what Tame Impala song it was, but like one of their big ones. Like I this is before I ever listened to King Giz. I just didn't even think of them as psychedelic. I was like, all right, they're playing weird music. I don't know. And it's
Well, I think
before,
it's hard
yeah.
to define.
What's
It's
that?
like psychedelic music is like a hard genre to define.
Yeah. No, it
Um,
totally is. Because like basically everything has the potential to be psychedelic. Um, like if you play anything weird that like catches your eye or you know like it grips you, it's like that is literally psychedelic because it's expanding your mind to react a certain way to something. And yeah, like it's weird. I would define psychedelic music as basically anything that sounds like it could be in a dream. Um, you know, or like if it actually like really affects your conscious state. Um, yeah. So, which again goes back like that could easily be classical music too. So
yeah, no, it really is hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, and I think you know, I think it's really hard to put the feeling that you get from music into words,
yeah.
uh, and you know, having to verbally define a genre or a type of music, I mean, at least for me, is super difficult. Like, I would, you know, I would consider like Ariel Pink psychedelic.
Mm-hmm.
He's, you know, he's a huge influence on me.
I
Um,
love them.
I have a side project that is very Ariel Pink, John Mouse inspired, with that kind of like 80s AM radio kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, and you know, I was with a buddy who's like the lead front man of the band that I'm in. And I went over to his place and I was like, I want to make an Ariel Pink song. So we kind of just like pushed out an Ariel Pink inspired song in like 3 hours. Um, and like, hey, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's a bop.
yeah. No, I mean it's so weird. So I released an EP myself back in April, and I wrote like it's just a 3-song EP. It's like nothing official. It's just on YouTube and SoundCloud. Um, but yeah, like 2 of the songs that are on it, I wrote just maybe 2 weeks before I recorded them, and they just came to me so easily. Like I was just in this sort of creative vortex, and yeah, like I was just like, all right, let me just try and get into some sort of meditative state and start writing, and just whatever comes to mind that feels right, that's what I'm going to put out. And yeah, I think they're both really good songs. It's weird how just like when you get that clear idea, uh, just how everything can really fall into place
Yeah, and
in a short amount of time.
really cool, it's a really cool process. I mean, I did it with my buddy Ben, and especially that like quick collaborative process where we kind of just like put our heads together and pushed out this piece of music in 3 hours was just like one of the greatest creative like releases I've ever had in my life.
Yeah,
It was such a high that it gave me, and right after I was like, we should do that again, like let's do another one. And it kind of fell in the back burner with the band, with the other band stuff that we were doing. But the quarantine has allowed us to play with some more ideas. So we're working on a second song for it. Um,
nice.
and hopefully we'll be able to release it in a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's psychedelic. You can put anybody in there. Not
Mhm.
anybody, but you can put a lot of people. Put a lot of
Yeah,
people under that umbrella.
yeah. I mean, you know, Kesha, her last album, Rainbow, it's totally psychedelic. Um,
I
like,
haven't heard.
yeah, I can't recommend it enough. Like, it's actually really good.
Yeah,
Um, and because like she did it all herself. Like, there's no rapey producer behind it. It was just all her. And then like Dolly Parton appears on a track. Eagles of Death Metal are in a couple of others, and Yeah, so like she fucking got out there and did just, I think, one of the best albums of the decade. Um, and at least in terms of my favorite albums, it's in my top five. Um,
Old time.
no, just of the decade.
Oh, the
Yeah, but
okay.
but still, yeah, like it's.
It was a
I mean,
good
yeah,
day.
it was a great decade. We went from like kind of nothing in 2010 to holy shit, King Giz, and Kesha. Damn. Uh, but yeah, so that album also came out in 2017. That was just a good year for music. Uh,
Yeah, well, God, yeah, my God. That year was such a fucking ride. Like,
yeah,
I I was very skeptical. I didn't think they were gonna do it. But I think once Sketches came out, I believe it was in August. Uh, that's when I was like, yeah, you know what? They can do it. They could totally do it. And I think they released Gumboot on like the 31st of
yeah,
December.
that came out the 31st. Yeah, I remember exactly because I was like, I heard they were going to release 5 albums this year, and like I was, getting a little antsy, and because like I had just gotten into them like a month before, like right at the end of November of 2017. So Polly had just come out, and yeah, and it's like I had no idea what to expect with Gumboot. And then they released the first single from that, which was The Last Oasis, and I don't think they've made any reference to it since. It's like,
It's interesting. Like, I think, it kind of felt like a mishmash of songs that didn't fit, but they didn't feel like, throwaway songs.
no,
Um,
like Gumboot was a great record. Like,
yeah,
I think the point of it was, yeah, just to show that, like, hey, even though these songs didn't fit on the albums that had that sonic theme, these will work together.
yeah,
And like, yeah.
it was great. How would you rank those 5 albums?
Oh shit. I think, oh, God, it's so hard to do.
It really,
Um,
I
for
really love all of them.
Yeah, me too. It's like they're all for different moods I find myself in. Um, and I really can't rank those moods either. Well, okay, no, okay. So I guess if we're ranking those albums by mood, Sketches would be number one, Flying Microtonal Banana would be number two, then uh, Gumboot, Polygon to Wonderland, and Murder of the Universe. Because Murder of the Universe is for when I'm feeling, really pissed off and destructive. So
I would say, yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to rank them too. Um, but I think I just love. I can't even say that. I can't. I can't. It's pretty much impossible for me to do. But you know, I think when it came, as they were gradually coming out that year, you know, uh, I was listening to them constantly, and it just whenever I listen to them now, it kind of brings me back to that year. Um,
yeah,
it takes me back to certain places. Like when I listen to Murder of the Universe, I think of myself on the subway going to Scarborough for a shitty internship that I had. When I listen to Gumboot, it came out when I was on vacation in the Caribbean, and I was just like listening to Greenhouse Heat Death under a boiling hot sun, feeling like I was melting. So
yeah,
very appropriate. And then Polygon Wonderland came out around Halloween time,
mm-hmm.
and it kind of reminds me of that like kind of dark kind of weather, and it's like I feel like Polygon Wonderland might be my favorite, just because it's so technically bonkers, and I don't understand how. First of all, I don't understand how they play it live. I think it's insane how they play it live.
Yeah,
I
they're
think
focused on like their own beats. I mean, like you have to have such an impeccable sense of rhythm to pull it off.
honestly, like I've taught myself a couple songs off that album on bass, and it's hard to stay focused and in rhythm just because there's, 6 other people playing shit at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's truly a marvel. And I really hope they delve into more polyrhythmic stuff, because I think it's some of their most intriguing music. I think when I listen to it, I really focus on each part, and I'm just in awe of like how they were able to just put it all together like that.
Yeah, it's nuts to me how you can write polymetric music, especially when you're releasing that album on top of four others that year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
And
and granted, I'm sure they wrote a lot of the songs like in 2016 after the Onagon tour, but Christ, it's still like, yeah, Polly was the first album I listened to, and immediately I was just like, who the fuck comes up with this? Like I was pissed off and frustrated by like, I could never do this. Like,
yeah, I honestly don't know how they did it, especially because when I did that interview in 2016, I was like, "You've put out 3 records in a year and a half. That's crazy. Do you have any plans for like after this tour?" And Stu was like, "I think we're gonna take it easy. We're gonna take a little bit of a break." And then fucking 5 records, and like, of course you did.
they know how to play it cool. Um,
Truly.
I imagine Stu probably has it pretty easy in terms of like the creative stuff, just because solely because he's on social media. Um, like I, he's able to just focus on his shit and otherwise doesn't give a fuck, and I love that about any person. So
But I mean, they're on the road all the time. Like, I
and
just
that, yeah,
like, when do you? First of all, it's one thing to write it, but I mean, to compose something like Polygon Wonderland and then have everybody rehearse and learn those parts. I can't remember if everybody was recording on that album
I
or
think they were,
okay.
yeah.
Um, so I mean, that's definitely helpful. Um, but still, like learning those parts is just, I don't know what their recording process was like if they did it all together or if they did it isolated.
Mm-hmm.
Because playing it together live is just crazy.
Yeah. Although at the same time, it might make sense that playing it together like in a full band setting might actually be easier, just because they have other cues to sort of pick up from. Um,
Yeah, that's a fair
and
point.
yeah, I mean it's just, and like in their last KEXP interview with the Rat's Nest one, um, they they were asked, which album was the toughest to record, and then everybody had a totally different answer. Like Joey said, Polygon to Wonderland was the hardest because everything was so convoluted and everything. But Stu was just like, yeah, I think Fishing for Fishies. I'm just like, fuck you, dude. Like that. That's like,
Sure, wasn't it something like he was trying really hard to just write generic pop songs, and that was really hard for him?
yeah. I guess that was sort of it, and then like, because like I guess it is the theme of Fishies is a little ambiguous. Like there is the main theme of like we're going from empathy for all living things to Boogie, just like a really rapid ascension or whatever you call it, and it's yeah, like but beyond that, it was like, okay, but how else does this work?
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't love it when it first came out, if I'm being honest.
yeah, I
It
mean,
came up,
it's not my favorite by any, not even close, but it's good.
yeah, it's great. But I think I got the Boogie single with the Akron B side.
Yeah, yeah.
This is great. I'm so excited for this like weird techno, funky boogie album. And then, they kind of followed those lines, but they also veered off in different directions as well. Um, I think I think thematically it's fairly cohesive, but I think a lot of the songs are very musically different.
Hmm.
Like the fact that Akron is on the same album as Boogeyman Sam. I just
Yeah.
find it's like it's an interesting choice, but somehow they were able to make it work.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting to me about Fishies is that like the A side was pretty much just all like, uplifting uh party songs and with like a nice good message. Not, not party songs, but like happy. And then like quickly pretty I feel like starting with Real's Not Real, like that's where shit goes like that's when stuff like gets changed up and you're just like, oh okay, wait, no, they're gonna veer off into something. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean like Akron, I just love that. Like I'm really glad that I got to see them play that live once. And I mean it's just a really fascinating song. uh and especially how it does go into like that electronic second half. It's like, whoa,
I
this
love that.
is
It's sweet. Uh,
yeah.
I'm very curious to know. I mean, I guess Joey has that Belant project,
Yeah.
but I want to see Stu go like fully electronic. And if it's not a King Gizzard release, maybe like a solo release. I'm also super curious about that Suspiria live score that they did.
Oh yeah, yeah. The thing with like all the different time signatures that
I
wait
don't know
wait
too
wait
much about it.
which thing are you talking about? I'm not sure if we're thinking of the same thing.
So a couple months ago, they did a live score that Stu and I think a few other musicians wrote. I think Cavs was in it as well. Um,
Oh.
and they did a live score of Suspiria in front of an audience.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, I totally misheard what you said the first time. Yeah. So I actually know nothing about this. That sounds really fucking cool.
yeah, so I knew that it was happening, and I was hoping that there would be some kind of audio recording of it. I think there was a bootleg floating around, but I have not had the chance to find it and listen to it. I believe in the AMA that they did during the Chunky release, they said that they're hoping to release it because from the previews, it just sounded fucking nuts. And I'm a huge fan of the film as well. So I'm hoping that there will be some kind of wide release for it.
Yeah,
And
that'd be sick. I know nothing about the film. So the film's called Suspiria.
yeah,
So
so
yeah,
yeah,
what does that entail? What's the premise of that movie?
so it's an Italian horror film directed by Dario Argento, who is one of the, if not the godfather of, I believe it's pronounced Gaio films, which is like this like
Ah, shit. Video
I,
froze.
oh sorry, I
Yes.
probably butchered the pronunciation of what it's called, but
That's okay.
he was making all these kinds of movies in the 70s and 80s, and this one got a lot of critical acclaim. I think it's considered to be his best, and uh, the soundtrack is incredible. Like the original score was done by this Italian band called Goblin.
Hmm.
Um, it's definitely a soundtrack worth checking out. I'd highly recommend.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
uh, I'll definitely give that a listen. Um,
it's incredible. And they actually remade the film 2 years ago. It's on Amazon Prime. It's pretty good. It's kind of different from the original, but it's definitely worth watching too.
awesome, dude. Well, this I think we're way over the time that I that I initially thought we would go, but this has been a really fun. Like we covered a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Take it easy and stay safe out there.
Thanks, man. You too.
Appreciate it.